You want gold? Try bleeding first. That's the real alchemical formula. Never mind beakers think lancets raw knuckles a sticky floor. Step 1, prick your arm and spill something precious. Step 2, hope the universe is bored enough to turn your bodily fluids into a fortune. If you thought crypto mining was risky, try medieval bloodletting, except at the end you get dizzy, not dividends. Hashtag blood and lead out still broke. People talk about sweat equity. You're providing plasma shares. Everyone else gets long lunches, you get long incisions and a bucket too dented to look elegant. Forget chemistry sets, you get a rusty knife, a splintered table, and a crowd convinced your bodily fluids are transferable assets. One cut from bankruptcy. Scientific method. Try superstition, bribes, and occasionally an accidental fire. Newton, yes, that Newton, once filled his notebooks with diagrams of philosophers' stones and unicorn horns. The apple didn't fall far from the fevered dream. Sir Isaac just upgraded the tree to pure delusion, scribbled equations in the dark, and coughed up more mercury than results. No sterile gloves, just dirty fingernails and whispered orders. More blood, apprentice. Try a vein. Make it quick. Somewhere a noble sips wine, reading your progress report, significant plasma advances. In reality, you're locked in a damp cellar, scraping crusty leads, sniffing sulfur fumes, and hallucinating about bread crust. The boss wants gold, not excuses. He's read the pamphlet that says mixing blood with molten metal triggers alchemical miracle. Spoiler, agony. Second spoiler, you still get lead. Harry Potter. More like Harry Bleeder. Hogwarts never covered scurvy or septicemia. Mixing blood and metal good for magic, bad for survival rates. You faint, wake up sticky, then faint again. Someone tosses you a rag, calls it bandaging. Your veins shrivel. The gold doesn't show unless wild hallucinations qualify. You invent excuses faster than you invent gold, delay from mercury supplier. Sulfur shortage, my lord. Unexpected plasma loss. Congratulations, you're doing medieval corporate communications via the medium of pain. Hope you like performance reviews conducted with thumbscrews. Deliver gold or deliver your last will. Lead fumes fill your lungs with every failed experiment. Side effect. Lighter head, heavier regrets. Wanna see saints, just keep bleeding. Some nights you glimpse Joan of Arc, she's not helping. You envy the rats, they at least can escape. If the work doesn't kill you, the remedies will. Rose water said to cleanse the wounds. All it does is sting. Consider this your health plan. Pass out enough and you start to see the appeal of grave digging. At least grave diggers get lunch breaks with food. Bread baking becomes a lost art and an unmet craving, a fantasy sweeter than all the gold your blood won't buy. There's no bread, just more buckets, more pricking, more hopes that this time maybe the red stuff turns yellow. Half the prisoners die in a week. You're on day 6. The only incentive is not dying today. Call it the original performance bonus. You weren't the only one. Real medieval alchemists, including Paracelsus, Newton, and plenty of anonymous hopefuls, believed blood had powers to heal, to transmute, to summon spirits. They scrawled recipes for tinctures, powders, and the occasional intervention from archangels. Imagine reading aloud to your supervisor, "Combine blood of a red-haired youth with tears of a pure maiden by moonlight." Try presenting that at a board meeting. For every success, a dozen failures, more lead, more disappointment, another hole in your arm. Alchemy demanded sacrifice, no metaphor, just literal fluid ounces. If you're lucky, you keep track of your pints. If not, someone else does. Irony, bleed for gold, wind up with anemia. Today we have health insurance, then you had wishful thinking and enough herbs to mask the fever for a few extra hours. It wasn't just blood either, urine, sweat, and saliva made the mix. Think of it as medieval crowdfunding. Give a little, lose a lot. Returns negative. Sure, rumors swirled about success. Some guy third cousin to a bishop allegedly lip-synced a golden coin out of goat's blood. Spoiler, he vanished. Theft. Or just hiding from debt collection. Alternative financing medieval edition. Those left behind explain the lack of results with bad omens. Astrological retrogrades. Demons with inconvenient schedules. The moon was wrong. You're not pure enough. Always blame the intern. Meanwhile, your supervisor threatens to increase motivation. And in medieval HR, that's not code for a pizza party. No air, no help, no way out. You scrape sulfur from the stones until your fingers blister, pour your blood until your vision blurs, all to help a nobleman avoid bankruptcy. Every time you think you're finished, more blood, more fervor, more hope thrown into the bucket. Your optimism is the only real fool's gold. Staggering pale, convinced there's a missing step. But there is. Just more lead, more lectures, the distant sound of chains and rats. Still chained, still not rich. Might as well wish on mercury vapors. At least they'll make you forget it's hopeless. End result: a bucket of disappointment, a blistered arm, and another day in the dark. Still chained, still not dead. Yet. Roll out the red carpet, here comes medieval celebrity status. The kind that sticks, and not in a good way. Turns out being an alchemist is less about mystical secrets and more about your place on the latrine leaderboard. You dreamt of smoky chambers and gold-crusted laboratories. You got a front row seat to the world's least glamorous VIP experience, medieval plumbing up close and personal. Forget velvet ropes. Think rusted shackles and privy pits with your name spelled wrong scrawled over the door. Imagine telling your parents you made it, only to be congratulated as the new guy chained next to the night bucket. No privacy isn't on the menu. Neither is basic human decency. Your audience, the rats, the cockroaches, and the parade of other failed visionaries scratching tic-tac-toe boards into the wall. You think turning lead to gold is hard. Try improvising a fizzing retort with one hand on a piss-slick chain and the other swapping lice with your neighbor. Cutting it, tools mean melted spoons and whatever didn't disintegrate in last night's rain. Dignity. Only if you count carving, send food into the soft stone with a toenail. Most days aren't candle-lit mysteries. There you hunched in the half-light mugging for the open sewer. Your roommates vermin and astrologers. You'll pass the time trading constipation cures and the kind of philosophical debates that always end with, "But what if dying is okay?" The soundtrack is a mix of sloshing filth, echoing groans, and that one guy who thinks every cough is a sign the Black Death's planning a sequel. Smells like peasant eau de nightsul. More notes of earthy despair than sandalwood. If you can still smell anything after day 3, congratulations. You're one of the lucky few whose sinuses haven't self-destructed. Meet the legends Thomas Charnock, celebrated for his prison stay as much as for his experiments. Celebrity, in this world, means becoming an anecdote in somebody else's warning letter. Congratulations, you're not researching eternal life. You're groping around in century-old compost, hopping the next rat bite isn't fatal. There. Charnock, who lived and literally burned for his work, torching property and patience alike, only to spend every bailout in the bottom of someone else's filthy hole. The legacy. A story told to future prisoners about the man who tried to conjure immortality and instead set a new record for most days without sunlight. Food, technically yes, there's something resembling it. If you love variety, you're in for a thrill. Yesterday's bread, perpetual fungi and water pulled from a source that's more archaeological dig than spring. Welcome to the taste test. You'll debate the merits of maggot protein versus mystery stew. Sometimes you'll be blessed with a chunk of meat, species undetermined expiration date, yesterday at best. Forget eating to live, you're eating to prove a point. Half the prisoners fall within a week. You're planning your memoir for day 7 still chained, still not dead. You're thinking, at least I'll lose some weight. Sure, if you count muscle off your ribs and whatever soul you started with. Clothes, as relevant as a raincoat in a drought. Your luxury bedding is a patch of straw reeking like a festival porta potty. Blankets are optional, lice are mandatory. Sometimes the guards donate a bucket for entertainment, 2 inches of rainwater and a frog. Like streaming services, but everything's viral. Networking. You'll make fast friends, faster enemies, and the occasional philosopher priest with lice bigger than your thumb. Forget scholarly debate, it's all shouting, sobbing, and the recurring argument over whose chamber pot needs priority. Privacy is a theory, not a practice. If you're lucky, you'll learn some new Latin curse words, if not, you'll invent them. Relationships run on proximity and desperation. Not exactly LinkedIn for medieval geniuses. Your lab. It's whatever you can beg, steal, or hallucinate. There's no experiment too risky when the alternative is boredom-induced madness. The only gold you'll see is the yellow mold encroaching on the walls, a living chemistry project that's outpacing your research. Every flame risks an explosion, every concoction tempts fate and bowel distress. For every grand theory, there's a test subject scurrying away squeaking. Protection. Doors that never quite close. Guards who'd sooner watch you rot than risk catching something. Your main defense is your own odor, nature's restraining order. Rumor has it the smell's so bad it's been known to clear entire battalions. They say the king wanted alchemists for their secrets, not their scent. Let's talk amenities. Like airborne, but for pain. You'll rate your stay 0 stars, but the rats would give it a 4. Water drips, lips crack, nails collect grime like career politicians collect bribes. No bath, no basin, just a puddle whose origins you try not to imagine. Tooth care, the slow, deliberate loss of teeth. Fashion layers of mud and medieval regret. Maybe you'll meet a jailer with a soft spot, they'll bring old scrolls or the burnt heel off their stale loaf. Sometimes you'll get a riddle instead of a flogging, a real highlight. Other times you're staring so long into the darkness, you start seeing colors, hearing voices, inventing new elements out of sheer delirium. Dark matter, you wonder, or did that rat just whisper at me? Insight or insanity, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But hey, you're making memories. Chained ankle deep in history's overflow, you'll become living proof. Prestige is a matter of perspective and lower expectations. Out there in the world, princes wonder if you've perfected the elixir of life. Down here you'd settle for 5 minutes of fresh air or a bowel movement with some dignity attached. Even fame comes with a smell. No open flames, unless you count the one from your neighbor's explosive gas attacks. VIP access. You're in the chamber reserved for those who couldn't keep their ambitions or their backsides clean. Still chained. Still not gold. Still not dead. And with luck or bad luck, you'll have another story to tell tomorrow, assuming you remember who you are by then. You want science? Try medieval guesswork on a bad hair day. Here, experiment means mixing gunpowder, mercury, charred sheep's hair, and the goo scraped off crypt walls, then crossing every finger you still have that you'll leave the room upright. You call it research. Everyone else calls it Monday or possibly Thursday's house fire. Lab notebook. More like a confession. Modern chemistry class promises safety showers, safety glasses, and maybe a responsible adult. Medieval chemistry offers none of that unless you count prayer and regret. Splash acid in your face today, someone brings the eye wash. Back here, the rat is fetching a wooden spoon and whispering last rites. No PPE, no OSHA, not even an open window, just you, a crusty bottle, and fumes so thick even the flies drop dead. If the cauldron starts hissing, congratulations, you're the safety protocol now. Think you've got a process? Please. Your only process is random improvisation disguised as destiny. Ad-libbing is everything. Step 3. Quickly plunge flask in cold urine. Step 4. Invoke Thoth while hopping on one foot. You found Geber, Alchemy Bible, in a monastery's haunted section. 15 recipes for gold, all with disclaimers like pray vigorously or add basilisk egg if feeling unlucky. Most of the book is guesswork wrapped in mysticism like a molecular fever dream. That bit about boiling lead to make gold. Left out the part where you let in all the demons. Looking for precedent. Newton, the world's brainiest physics nerd, locked himself in a candle-lit attic, surrounded by bottles labeled "Do Not Taste," and tried to invent immortality with a mix of red mercury mystic symbols and pure gullibility. Spoiler, all he got was mercury poisoning and eye trouble. Isaac Newton, genius physicist, mediocre alchemist, nutritional hazard. Your competition isn't just clueless, it's dangerous with a side of supernatural hubris. Still think you're breaking new ground? Paracelsus, the John Wick of Renaissance medicine, cured people by guessing which fresh toxin might kill the disease faster than it killed the patient. Mercury arsenic lead, his signature move. His other specialties, loud opinions and equally loud hats. If it doesn't cure you, it'll at least change your religion. He lived by the medical maxim, the dose makes the poison. Translation, oops. Now you're bleeding from the eyes. And what's with the notes? Yes, you have a method written down in shaky Latin, splashed with unidentifiable goo and annotated with "do not repeat." The so-called laboratory record is really a list of warnings for whoever cleans up your remains. Instead of logical progression, it's a surrealist grocery list, a dash of wolf spittle. Boil vigorously. If spirits appear, apologize and wall up the cellar. Peer review isn't a process, it's a body count. If I survive, it's genius. If I don't, please feed my toad. Actual discovery, you're winging it. While you're at it, you might as well try astrology, necromancy, or prayer by volume. Double, no results. Is it reproducible? Only if hallucinating counts. The best part, no tools. Your workspace consists of half a brick, a dented copper pot, and a wooden spoon with "blessed" scratched into the handle. Crucibles are for melting silver or hiding from creditors. Glassware is blown by the local drunk. Measuring spoon. Pinch with your thumb and hope. Every apparatus a catastrophe waiting to happen. Misaligned retort, cracked flask, blood and vinegar on the workbench. It's not a lab, it's a dare. Atmosphere suffocating. Literally. Smoky haze so thick even prayers can't get out. Miasma, burning hair, and a hint of sulfur carry through every venture. Today's new experiment smells suspiciously like last week's funeral. Sure, there's a vent carved into the wall, but it's plugged with holy relics and 2 dead pigeons. You can't tell where the experiment ends and the illness begins. Scratchy throat might be the cure. Burning eyes must be progress. The logic, such as it is part scavenger hunt, part magical realism. What's that ingredient? I found it inside a drowned goat. Good, we're making progress. Alchemists invent new processes as if chemistry is improv night at the plague ward. Hide behind Latin names, stuff a deer bladder with rock salt and call it a philosophical vessel. The result: more smoke, less gold, several dead goats. Of course, you're surrounded by faith and fear. Heat the wrong stuff and you're accused of witchcraft. Fail to make gold and you're accused of theft. Produce a noxious gas bomb, the bishop starts asking questions you can't answer and you're too busy coughing up bits of medieval carpet to try. Faith is your fire blanket and panic is your sous chef. Every failed attempt is divine intervention. Every success is probably the devil. You can't win. Still, you write it all down. Crumpled parchment covered in stained scribbles, secret codes and prayers to Thoth, Christ, and anybody else who might listen. This is your data. This is your legacy. Someday, 7 centuries from now, real scientists will marvel at your dedication, by which you mostly mean survival rate. Every page a cautionary tale. Don't touch. Do not repeat. If you smell almonds, run. No safety, no statistics, just desperation and superstition in a stone-walled abattoir. 14th century science. Less Nobel Prize, more Darwin Award. Peer review takes the form of survivors tallying their digits. Still chained, still not dead, still no gold. No reliable results. No reason, no peace. You think you're on the brink of discovery, but it's really just a candle-lit contest against the Reaper and yourself. 14th century chemistry, less lab coat, more jackass dare. Good luck selling your miracle tonic to the next peasant who knocks. That mushroom cloud above the monastery. It's not a miracle. It's just another Monday. You want to bottle cosmic secrets? Sure. Here, hold my flask. No, not that one. Congratulations, you've just given yourself degree burns on your good hand. That's what alchemy really looks like up close. Everyone talks about the quest for gold, but nobody mentions the random fireballs, the daily glass shrapnel, the boiling lead on bare feet. Medieval science was less Nobel Prize, more explosion of the week. Less Newton's apple, more anvils raining from the sky, accompanied by the faint smell of squirrel and singed dignity. You think lab safety means a tidy workbench. Try spilled mercury soaking into the floorboards. A passing rat sniffs, it explodes in a puff of blue smoke, and the apothecary's apprentice swears the room just grew 3 new windows. Hope you like surprises, because everything you touch is another alchemy dice roll. Sometimes you get a pleasant violet vapor. Other times it's, oh look, we've invented indoor fireworks. Again, better apologize to the cat. No hazard pay, no hazard plan, just hazard. Now gunpowder. Surprise, you invented it in your own basement twice, once on purpose, once because you sneezed. The Chinese alchemists hoped for immortality. Instead, they stumbled on immortal regret. Their recipe was simple: saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal. Mix while tired. Ignore the itchy rash on your forearms, it's a sign the gods are watching. Side effect: sometimes you lose the ceiling. The Song Dynasty government eventually noticed. Suddenly, recipe for eternal life became how to level your neighborhood. It's like inventing fireworks at your grandmother's wake, impressive, and now everyone's screaming. Let's get specific. The monk Berthold Schwarz. Supposedly he took a powder keg, sang a prayer, and earned the nickname Crispy. Basil Valentine, legendary German alchemist, was so fond of antimony, he nearly poisoned his entire monastery. Not even on purpose, just while testing out improved elixirs. John Dee, the Queen's Court wizard, accidentally turned his study windows into shrapnel dispensers and still had time to write about angel conversation. Even in the Renaissance, nobody learned. Isaac Newton spent 3 years inhaling deadly mercury fumes during his chemical research. Genius. Brilliant. Died with half his hair and all his regrets. You want ingredients? Here's your shopping list: saltpeter, sulfur, charcoal. Water if you're fancy, sweat if you're desperate. Add a pinch of loneliness, a spoonful of insomnia, and a dusting of I dare you. Bonus: most of these chemicals were stolen behind your employer's back in the dark wearing a damp hood. If you needed glassware, you stole that too, or repurposed last year's chalice when nobody was looking. You haven't really lived until you've tried balancing a burning wick on a pewter spoon while stirring arsenic in a barn full of hay. Think you're clever. Wait for that ungodly boom when the entire cauldron goes airborne. Looks like you invented levitation, at least for furniture. Forget protective gear. Lab goggles. Try a woolen sack tied with string. Lab coat. Just don't wear anything you'll miss. No OSHAs, no lab rats, unless you count your cousin Egbert, who occasionally gets press-ganged into holding volatile jars near open flames. The insurance plan. Fervent prayer and a stack of apology coins for the landlord. No light, no gloves, just your own sweaty palms and that mysterious rash. Best case scenario, you only lose your eyebrows. One slip and congratulations, you're on fire. Again, you douse yourself with the contents of the unlabeled jug. Hope that wasn't aqua regia. Now you're screaming, Egbert's screaming, the candle is screaming, and you're starting to hallucinate. Castle guards break the door, someone trampled the basil, and the only thing intact is the goat now standing triumphantly in your ashes. Your best friend. That's the drafty corridor full of acrid smoke and the promise of a new criminal record. Legends, you say. Roger Bacon, Dr. Mirabilis, wanted to invent the future. Accidentally pioneered emergency facial reconstruction. His notes ramble in terrified shorthand. Recipe, heated flask, sudden bang, fled for my life, lost laboratory, blamed Egbert. There's no ambiguity. Half his instructions read like legal disclaimers. Paracelsus, the poster child of magical chemistry, once brewed a potion so potent it dissolved his shoes. You have to respect that kind of commitment to chaos. Think you'll get applause? Oh, you will. But not for alchemy. Your workshop just detonated loud enough for the bishop 3 towns over to update his heretic watch list. The neighbors of 4 angry peasants, 3 sleep-deprived monks, and a goat with trust issues now know you exist and wish they didn't. Last week you cured a fever, this week you're the reason the town square has scorch marks. Nobody trusts the guy who makes the night sky light up on accident. Not when the Inquisition is running a 2-for-1 special on confessions. And yes, the Inquisition, we haven't forgotten those sensitive chaps. All it takes is a single whoops heard from the alley and suddenly you're chained in a stone basement explaining experimental blowback to a guy who thinks combustion is a form of witchcraft. Still chained. Still not dead. Yet, half your fellow researchers lasted a week. You're on day 6 reciting your safest recipes and praying nobody asks you where the eyebrows went. Here's the punchline: every eureka is actually duck and cover. Every recipe is another unintentional Bond villain trap. Even if you don't blow up the king's eyeballs, you'll probably torch your own before the night's out. There's no triumph, just a lot of noise, panic, and the world's shortest haircuts. The real element of surprise wasn't gold, it was waking up every day not knowing if breakfast is bread or shrapnel. Still chained, still not dead. The real miracle of alchemy, surviving it long enough to sweep up your own ashes or invent the world's first fire extinguisher by accident. If you see Egbert, tell him to bring water next time, or at least a helmet. You want gold? Fantastic. You're eating bread if you're lucky. Turns out turning lead into precious metals didn't put meat on the table unless by meat you mean that suspiciously gray, questionably organic lump left in the cauldron after your 5th failed experiment. Alchemy in medieval Europe paid in promises, poverty, and the kind of diet where you hallucinate about bacon before blacking out on your splintered workbench. Nobody told you that infinite wealth was code for infinite IOUs. Sure, some people chase the philosopher's stone, you're just chasing something edible that doesn't taste like boiled shoe leather. Lead, mercury, borax, saltpeter, all the essentials for a lifetime of bad soup. Forget riches. Start budgeting for stale crusts and collecting a portfolio of debts signed in quill tears and mildew. Nicholas Flamel, the Pinterest perfect life coach every broke alchemist resented, supposedly found immortality and endless gold. Most of his colleagues found dental problems from gnawing on petrified barley bread. Gold for kings and popes. You, dirt in your boots, brown water in your cup, existential dread in your veins. Nobility gets castles, you get chronic indigestion and a minor case of arsenic poisoning. Your landlord doesn't take aspiring philosopher as payment. Trying to pay with dreams. Go on, try explaining the metaphysical value of sulfur to a man holding a club. When you walk the breadline, it's really more of a stagger, then crawl, then a faceplant into the mud by the monastery's garbage heap just in time for the daily turnip peelings. There's prestige in starving stylishly right. Good news, you're the blueprint for every struggling creative in history. The original starving artist minus the art, plus a lot more mercurial poisoning. Peer review, please. You're surrounded by other half-mad, malnourished shut-ins who have convinced themselves that eating nettles counts as a salad. You pillow your head on scorched parchment. You dream of chickens. You wake up to beetle larvae in your bread. Hope nobody notices that heretical shimmer bubbling up in your homemade stew. The church is suspicious about everything, including your latest chemical mistake. Bonfires aren't just for warmth anymore, they're interviews. Starvation isn't a metaphor. Let's break it down. 14th century Florence, a bustling city of artists and craftsmen. Alchemists lived on the discarded crusts from tavern floors, sometimes literally fighting stray dogs for bones. Plague years. Congratulations. You just inherited your neighbor's spot on the breadline. On good days, you score the moldy ends. Bad days, you drink water and practice turning disappointment into calories. Transforming metals. You can't even transform your wardrobe. Same scratchy robe, new holes every month. Shoes dissolve faster than your theoretical gold. Penniless, you keep patching your cloak with sackcloth and prayers. Winter turns hunger into an Olympic sport you versus the rising price of barley. Spoiler, barley wins. Your candles are gone, burned on wishful incantations. You now work by moonlight, which doesn't improve your accuracy or your mood. Most apprentices last 2 years. They arrive wide-eyed, bellies full, pockets half empty. They leave jaundiced, whispering about hypothetical riches, trailing a cloud of cheap soap and failure. Half become herbalists. The other half, bodies found slumped over spattered cauldrons, last meal still undigested bread crust, and a lizard if you're lucky. Alchemy, base rewards, are mostly base. If starvation had a frequent flyer program, you'd have platinum status by now. Side effects: cracked lips, hollow cheeks, and an encyclopedic knowledge of edible weeds. The only thing you reliably transmute is patience into malnutrition, slow, steady, inevitable. Sleep, fitful and haunted by visions of roasted grouse, or just grousing in general. Think you'll sell a miracle elixir to a noble and rake in the florins. Wrong. You stand in the muddy square hopping to hawk powdered unicorn horn. Nobody's buying. Nobles buy from established names, not starving oddballs in rags. You get mockery, maybe a rotten apple core if you're lucky. Reputation matters unless your reputation is that guy who poisoned 3 pigs last Lent. And just when you think your fortunes will turn, a local war breaks out. You're commandeered by a minor lord who mistakes alchemist for court wizard. Now you're expected to conjure Greek fire on request. You fail. The lord withholds your already non-existent wages. You're left with burned fingers, charred pride, and a castle pantry that won't even give you the leftovers. Your workshop is a drafty cellar, like an airbun but for pain. Black mold grows faster than theoretical crystals. Rats outnumber you 2 to 1 and they're better fed. Sometimes during your midnight grind you hear the patron saints arguing upstairs about who'll claim you first. Saint Vitus bets on sodium poisoning. Saint Anthony's rooting for starvation. There's no exit. Not unless you get lucky. A coin tossed by a sympathetic merchant or a single commission from a desperate noble wanting love potion. Otherwise, your future is written in dust and hunger. Someday the city will move on, but your bones will slowly fossilize under stacks of unsold treatises on the transmutation of regret. Still chained to your mortar and pestle. Still not eating. Every morning the same ritual: scrape the bread barrel, check for fungus, stare at your hands, and wonder if palm reading would pay better. Outside the world keeps turning, but you wouldn't know. Windows cost too much and sunlight doesn't barter for lunch. No gold, no glory, just the slow grind of hunger, mind corroding hope, corroded dreams dissolved in borax and bile. Starvation isn't creative suffering. It's real chewy teeth breaking, and you do it beautifully. Endurance as a currency, bread crust as a bonus. You think you're learning patience. What you're really learning is starvation is the ultimate inescapable transformation. Call it the philosopher's tone set by your chattering bones. But hey, you're making history. The next time someone dreams about making millions by mixing things in the basement, they'll owe you a tip. Cash preferred. Bread accepted. Still chained. Still not dead. Not yet anyway. Charles the Bald wants immortality. You show him a goblet of brown sludge and call it an elixir. Congratulations, you have exactly 5 minutes before you're either court wizard or court corpse. Kings love magic, but they love scapegoats more. Especially when their gold never shows up and their hair doesn't grow back. History books romanticize these theatrics, alchemists, astrologers, holy relic peddlers, like it was a circle of inspired debate. In reality, call it Britain's Got Talent, but swap sarcastic judges for humorless executioners. You don't so much present your findings as perform a panic attack in velvet surrounded by bored nobles and a king looking for his next miracle. Get the mixture right and you're hero of the hour. Get it wrong and you're tomorrow's problem buried beneath whatever lord's last attempt to beat death failed harder. Safe word none. Magic is adorable until someone overdoses on mercury or the king's favorite dog explodes. Then suddenly, you're the dangerous one. A misspelled word of smoke that's the wrong color and you pivot from wonder worker to national crisis. Jalal al-Din Rumi inspires poetry, you inspire a witch hunt. You can't even ask for hazard pay. Unless you count, I'll let you live another night as a dental plan. Let's be clear, there are only two outcomes at the royal level: miracle or mistake. Produce a rose from thin air and you're fed truffles by hand for a week. Let the rose have thorns and the blisters on His Majesty's thumb become their own reason for a summary trial. Half the great wonders of medieval courts started as accidents. Congratulations, you've turned lead into poison. Too bad it's not gold. Too bad the prince drank it by mistake. The royal inbox is basically wish list meets suicide note: make gold from lead heel. The queen's boils conjure clouds on command, find Mars in the fog, predict a baby's hair color, fix a treaty with a planetary alignment. Nothing's ever enough. Not when the royal budget is bleeding and everyone's one bad prophecy from an angry mob. If a comet flashes through the sky, that's your problem too. Someone's baby sneezed. Explain. It's hard to maintain the court's faith when there's a dead pope in the papal apartments and the castle cook has grown a tail. Administer a secret remedy. Everyone smiles and you breathe for 8 hours. Fail and you're buried below the south wall with the other weather makers. And still chained, still not dead. The king still wants you to fix his gout with literal magic. Your protestations about medical science and limits of empiricism bounce off like arrows against dragon scales. He slides another parchment across the table now. How about eternal youth? Court life is a slow-motion hostage situation, and you, the trained specialist, the medieval consultant, realize you're there for insurance, not results. Your plan B for God's will. The king prays the priest's petition, then you vested, sweating, muttering produce magic in the gaps. If it works, he thanks a saint. If not, well, someone's head has to roll and yours is the most affordable option. Forget safety. Forget dignity. Consider John D. England's finest mind scraping wax off a cracked mirror, hopping his angelic letters don't spell fraud. Paracelsus perfects a new salve, the patient grows scales. Agnes Sampson floats for 5 minutes, then drowns for witchcraft. Half the prisoners died in a week. You're on day 6. You pray for success when survival is a coin toss. No air, no help, no way out. The gig comes with perks, dungeons, shackles, the iron-hot breath of the king's dogs. Bring me results or bring me your replacement. There's no tenure track for necromancers. If your alchemical gold turns out to be copper, congratulations. You've just reinvented the debt crisis. Medieval peer review 3 angry bishops, a mob, and 1 pre-lit pyre. Real secret: the king doesn't want magic. Not really. He wants certainty, and excuse, and plausible deniability. The same things CEOs crave at board meetings. You promised me the philosopher's stone. Where is it? Sorry, sire. Nobody can turn lead into gold, but you can absolutely turn gold into dead alchemists. Every unsuccessful experiment is a cautionary tale. Look, your majesty, my latest creation. It hisses, explodes, and now half the tapestry is on fire. The only consistent formula is this: kings need someone to blame when the weather stays terrible, the wives stay infertile, and the peasants keep dying. Magic gives them a hope-shaped loophole. You chained to your craft are the original fall guy. Live by invention, die by innovation. Was the formula successful? Yes, in demonstrating the limits of human endurance. There's a reason they keep you close but never unchained. Too helpful and you're a liability. Too clever and you're a threat. The real spell isn't mercury or gold, it's surviving the week without drawing a blade across your own neck. Your Highness, I have turned lead into slightly heavier lead. He frowns. Your odds don't improve. The dream always starts the same: immortality, endless gold, perfect weather. The ending never changes. A broken goblet, spilled elixir, and a suspicious king. Tomorrow's challenger is warming up in the hallway, clutching his scroll of charms, staring at your empty shackles. The velvet smells of blood and sick. The king clears his throat. You bow, swallow hard, and promise again to deliver the impossible by sunrise. Still chained, still not dead. The king still has gout and you're still the cure. For now. You want to moonlight as a mad scientist in the Middle Ages. Sure, just pick your flavor of suffering. There's a Q churchman, fire, rack, repeat. You say experiment. The Inquisition hears heresy. Guess which one of you carries the keys to the dungeon. Science fair medieval edition winner gets 30 lashes, runner-up loses an ear. The local bishop claims he loves natural philosophy, as long as you keep the bloodletting strictly theoretical. But the minute your potions fizz or your powders sparkle, congratulations, you're cast as lead villain in a live-action morality play. Everyone else pretends not to notice the sulfur reek climbing out of your garden shed, but the friar's already logging it in the suspicious sins ledger. The same abbot who orders medical advice from a philosopher will throw a candle-lit barbecue in your honor for melting the wrong metals. Hypocrisy isn't just a sin, it's a subscription service, and you're on the VIP list. Newton gets a statue, you get 10 toes up and a starring role as cautionary tale. Science not included. Try blending in. Swap your robe for peasant rags, hide your iron tongs behind a bushel of root vegetables. Good luck. Is that colored smoke a healing vapor or a demon's calling card? Doesn't matter. Either way, the laity sees fire and smells brimstone. Sir Geoffrey gets food poisoning, your cures get you front row at the rolling bonfire. Yeah, maybe you aced the trial by water, but you're now community scapegoat for everything from hailstorms to hiccups. Too many sick cows. Blame the tinkerer. Which panic the original home security system. Still convinced there's room for innovation. Try ordering glassware. A retort or an alembic just screams, search my manuscript collection, I dare you. Don't even think about distilling anything. One whiff of alcohol and suddenly your elixir of life is just a gateway to spiritual doom, and you a footnote in the next blood-soaked edict. Did you keep a few books in Greek for research? Enjoy a one-on-one with the Inquisitor. Spoiler: his bedside manner needs work. "Are you with us or with the devil?" he'll ask. Hint there is no neither box to tick. The Inquisition branding since 1231. Imagine a state-of-the-art hospitality franchise chainmail valet aromatherapy by burning fat lock-in policy is strict. You arrive a guest quickly downgraded to confession fodder. They let you pick your favorite vice, then invent a few extras. Expect amenities like rusty thumbscrews, festive fire pits, and an after-dinner show featuring you center stage. Like Airbnb, but for pain. By day 3, you'll wish you'd stuck to brewing beer. Half the prisoners died in a week. You're on day 6. And if you're thinking of bribing your way out, think again. Your neighbors are already swapping stories. He owns 6 knives and collects too many toads. Gossip travels faster than absolution. Birthmarks look suspicious, limps a warning sign, and gods help you if you're left-handed. The crowd can't spell alchemy, but everyone knows how to chant "burn the witch." That's the real power of medieval democracy, mob rule with pitchforks and bonus points for creative rumor-mongering. For extra irony, your ashes get mixed with lime and dumped in the river. Environmental hazard now with a human touch. Playing mad scientist isn't an experiment in the Middle Ages, it's bad improv in a torture basement. Every tool you buy, every script you write, each accidental explosion. It's all Exhibit A at your witch trial. Best case, you inspire a future drama student to wear your name on a protest sign. Worst case, you learn how fast bone burns at 451 degrees. The church loves a conversion story. Too bad yours ends with a pyre, not an epiphany. Pick your persecutor church for sudden outrage and spiritual shame. Fire the microwave option. Inquisition if you really want to test how loudly you can scream Latin. Still want to keep innovating? Sure, just don't say the wrong word, or make the wrong friend, or own 2 copies of Galen. Alchemy means turning pain into paranoia. The real element of surprise wasn't phosphorus. It was the pitchfork waiting in your neighbor's barn the whole time. In the end, still chain, still not gold. Just hotter, smokier, and now immortalized as a symptom, not a solution. Congrats, Alchemist, you invented backlash. You just didn't write it down fast enough. Potion brewing or poison testing. You decide you finally made it. Potion brewing, every aspiring wizard's tick-tock fever dream, right? Sparkling files, mysterious fumes. Cauldron aesthetic. Except here in the real medieval timeline, your lab looks like a condemned root cellar after a bad week. Today's starring ingredients: tap water, 3 dead rats, and an anxious prayer to St. Apollonia, patron saint of toothaches. The room smells like a garlic farmer's sock drawer dipped in old vinegar and lit on fire. You in your moth-bitten robe are basically a biohazard in human form. Technically, half this stuff is banned by the church, and the other half is banned by common sense. If the Inquisition comes by, you better have a good recipe for plausible deniability, and several places to hide your research notes. Good luck explaining why your hair fell out last Tuesday. Think you'll find a trusted partner to help test your latest elixir of eternal vitality? You might as well advertise a contest: first prize spontaneous organ failure, runner-up medieval diarrhea. Spoiler: test subjects are about as scarce as toilet paper in a plague year. So the scientific method here: taste and hope. If your stomach survives, it's a breakthrough. If you're doubled over in the pigsty clutching your guts, it's a normal Thursday in the wizarding calendar. Forget the FDA, the closest thing to approval here is not dying immediately. Welcome to clinical trials, peasant edition. Is this risky? Sure, but look around. Everyone's already dying of cholera, lead poisoning, or bad air. If your concoction happens to give out a rash or hallucinations, at least it works faster than slow starvation. It's survival of the least unlucky. Testing protocols boil down to sip and squint crossed with run for the bucket. Modern lab rats have better contracts. Enter Paracelsus Stage, left pioneer of toxicology patron saint of the dose, makes the poison and cautionary tale in one. Paracelsus drank mercury on purpose, just to see what would happen. Spoiler, nothing good. But at least he didn't die right away. That counts as a win in these circles. He also swore lead made him smarter and thought sulfur smoke was invigorating. Role model, maybe. Cautionary tale, definitely. Every wizard has a Paracelsus phase, usually ends with hair loss, explosive diarrhea, and a stern letter from one's local apothecary. The cauldron bubbles. Something sulfurous and green splatters the bench. Could be the secret to eternal life. Could be tomorrow's autopsy. Progress in the medieval lab is measured in teaspoons, one too many, and your legend two too many, and you're a one-line footnote. Genius or corpse separated by a sneeze. Each new discovery doubles as next week's poison tasting party. Invite list just you and a barf bucket. Like Blue Apron but with more convulsions. Recipes. No written instructions, just oral tradition and lots of wildly contradictory advice. A pinch of nightshade for sleep, says one mentor. A pinch and a half is how Uncle Henry died. Precise dosages are for the next millennium. You're working from handed-down rumors and fuzzy memories. One guy swears by 9 drops of toadstool oil, another says 10 drops is witchcraft, but 11 is divine intervention. Good luck keeping your notes straight with ink running from last night's failed gout remedy. Equipment. Basically whatever hasn't crumbled yet: cracked jugs, rusted knives, battered mortars, the clean side of a bread crust. Your only thermometer is your finger. Gorgeous glassware. Try a leftover wine bottle. Most laboratories are windowless, airless, and rumored to be haunted. Safety goggles, gloves, lab coats, all available after time travel becomes mainstream. For now, you guess and periodically cough up weird colors. Still chained to your own workbench. Literally sometimes if you tried the anti-fatigue potion. What's your test population? Yourself. If you're lucky, the local rats. But let's be honest, even the rats are getting suspicious. Every time you enter a room, they scatter like you're the Grim Reaper with bad breath. Can't blame them. Half the neighborhood's miracle elixirs have already claimed more lives than the Black Plague, statistically speaking. It's a wonder anyone lets you borrow their cauldron. The rest of the time you work in secrecy. Not due to mystical tradition, just self-preservation. Open your window once and watch your neighbor's cow start foaming at the mouth. Next week, a highly experimental invisibility potion. No matter. Every day's a new shot at glory. Or disaster. Silver lining: if it turns out to be immortality, you have all eternity to regret it. Don't even get started on the side effects. Worst case, cardiac arrest by sunrise. Best case, your skin glows blue for a fortnight and you become the talk of the cloistered town. Some healing potions relieve headaches by inducing memory loss. Convenient. Love potions usually substitute stomach aches for heartbreak. One batch of elixir of wisdom landed a scholar in the latrine for 3 days. Turns out the only thing you truly gain is experience, and that's if your hands stop shaking long enough to write it down. And let's talk about the social scene. Once you've poisoned yourself a couple of times, even your nastiest friends stop coming over. Parish gossip doubles as safety protocol. He's brewing again. Stay indoors. If you keep showing up hairless, twitching, and blue-lipped, your circle gets smaller. Eventually, it's just you and the rats, and they're unionizing. Feeling fancy and want to outsource. Convicted prisoners make great guinea pigs until half die in a week, and suddenly the law gets interested. By day 6, you're looking over your shoulder every time you hear church bells. Not exactly a hearing pool with growth potential. Would you trust your miracles to a sick goat or your brother-in-law? Piece of advice: funerals are expensive and inheritance paperwork is a nightmare. Still, it could be worse. Some wizards tried their luck on the town's orphans. At least the rats go quietly and don't tell stories. So, you think you're ready? Great. You're not. Brewing potions is part chemistry, part martyrdom, and mostly luck. Every taste test is you against Darwin, still chained at your bench, still breathing, still not gold, still not dead. Maybe this next batch will finally turn base metal into fortune or just turn your insides out. Go on, take a sip. Worst case, you make history. Best case, you survive to try again tomorrow. You think getting an internship at Google is cutthroat, cute. Try being a medieval alchemist's apprentice. Job ad reads like a Craigslist scam from hell. Must tolerate chronic mercury breath explosions and the soothing sounds of your master shrieking more sulfur at 3 a.m. No pay, no future. Dental plan consists of don't open your mouth. You pictured Hogwarts. Instead, you got a dirt floor dungeon, a job, shadowing. Someone who genuinely thinks lead turns to gold if you whisper at it nicely while lighting yourself on fire. Training day 1, you scrub soot off crucibles until your hands look like beef jerky, then contribute creatively by stirring bat guano into a mystery paste. Your official title is Flammable Intern. The benefits package is an apprenticeship certificate written in Latin signed in arsenic. The onboarding process. Survival of the least unlucky. Your orientation is Jan Baptista van Helmont lobbing acids because the only fire extinguisher is pray it rains. PPE. Picture a burlap sack and optimism. The break room is a corner with a bucket. You're hopping for water. You get lie. You haul buckets of dangerous goo while the boss, who still believes in humors and homeopathy, dictates recipes for immortality. Spoiler, you mostly invent coughing and something that smells like burnt regret. You want job security. Congratulations, you're now officially disposable. Apprentices dropped faster than TikTok trends, Paracelsian lab accidents, toxic fumes, or the ever-classic oops, drank the arsenic. It's a miracle if you finish the week with all your parts still attached. Half the prisoners died in a week. You're on day 6. Missed a step. Try cleaning up a lead spill using your skin. Medieval gloves are called bare hands. OSHA is a Latin word for ha-ha. Did you slip on spilled philosopher's oil? That's an initiatory ordeal. Or maybe just tetanus, the chemistry. Less National Geographic, more Chernobyl on a budget. Your master mixes elixirs in wine goblets because glassware is for wimps, then drinks the experiments. You scribe notes as the fumes eat through your quill. Compound gone wrong. Your fume hood is an open window as long as the town watch isn't walking by. Blood in the beaker. That's Tuesday. Outside, peasants laugh until their beer turns blue from your runoff, then it's pitchfork season. 1 week your fertilizer, next week your public enemy. A little yoke on the cobblestones, and suddenly the villagers want to test your theories with rocks. Inside, nothing says prestige, like scrubbing cauldrons while hallucinating from mercury vapor. That shiny liquid pooling in the cracks. Not Quicksilver's magic, just your IQ breaking down at the molecular level. You crave sleep. You get alchemy memes. Why did the apprentice cross the lab? To avoid dying, failed. Your bed is straw so filthy even rats avoid it, and the lullaby is the sound of your own lungs bargaining with sulfur dioxide. If you're lucky, the dreams have fewer demons than last night. Promotion prospects. Hope you like hands-on learning. Most apprentices lasted less than 5 years or 5 fingers. Sometimes one loss caused the other. Shortages of either led to early promotion into the master's grave. Half the time your big career move was inherit the boss's debts and his enemies. Got ambition. Here's your ladder. Step 1, don't die. Step 2, learn Latin by candle smoke. Step 3, find out which bottle isn't urine. Your master collects those for projects. Maybe the stars align and you survive long enough to be boss. Now it's your turn to shout, add more antimony. at your own unpaid minion. Congratulations, you've become the monster. Networking events. Picture a tavern where nobody shakes hands and everyone lies about discovering the universal solvent, mainly to score free drinks. Your references, all dead or pretending to be. The only endorsement you'll get is from the graveyard worm. Let's talk work-life balance. You don't have a life and work balances you across a pit full of boiling brine. Sick days are death-adjacent Thursdays. Vacations mean you're unconscious. Home is wherever you collapse, usually next to a barrel of something flammable with a half-scorched copy of pseudo-Jebber. There's always someone more expendable ready to fill your boots if flame damage hasn't fused them to your feet. Forget lunch breaks. Food comes as bribes from the master's spouse or whatever you can steal before the plague rats get it. Got time for hobbies? You'd better love cataloging failed experiments and counting new rashes. You want out? There's the door. It's locked. Still chained. Still not dead. The key is either with your master who sleeps with it in his mouth or lost in a leather-bound tome labeled Receipts Failed Transmutations. Running away means outrunning both the law and your own hallucination-induced limping, so you survive. You learn just enough to avoid the obvious traps and miss the subtle ones. Maybe one day you invent soap. Nobody uses it. Maybe you brew rose water. It's still 70 lead. You tell people you're on the cutting edge of science, but all you really are is a human canary. Prestige. A tobacco stain, a missing tooth, and a cough that never quits. Humanity's long road to chemistry is paved with the bones of hopeful, desperate, sleep-deprived interns just like you. But hay beats a desk job. Still chained. Still not dead. Mercury poisoning, not a metaphor. No, genuinely. You're standing there stirring a cauldron full of vaporized death, wondering why your hands shake and your teeth keep falling out. Spoiler, it's not the medieval Red Bull. It's lunch break and you're picking quicksilver out of your fingernails. By now, it's become a condiment. Want a toxic workplace? Congratulations, you're in the OnlyFans of self-annihilation. You're juggling arsenic lead mercury and eating lunch without washing your hands. A sandwich in one fist, pestle in the other. No PPE, no HR complaint forms. Just a crust of rye and a wardrobe malfunction in your internal organs. Here's the chemistry lesson they didn't teach. Mercury goes through gloves, skin, and sanity like medieval gossip through a royal court. It's so slippery, so silvery, so hypnotic. You can't help but poke at it, play with it, get it on everything. It seeps into your pores and into your bones and out through your breath, so even when you're not in the lab, you're still marinating. You cough, hallucinate, vomit, and then your boss says, "Great color, you've got the alchemist's glow." Isaac Newton melted his brain with this stuff. Literally. Legendary scientist, emotional support squirrel in later life, thanks Mercury. Your biggest workplace hazard isn't a bad performance review, it's the daily hazard pay in years of your own life. Mercury gets everywhere, and here's a fun fact. It never really leaves. You shed it in sweat. It pools under your nails. It breeds angry welts and mouth ulcers and that signature grinder's shake that absolutely ruins your calligraphy career. Whole textbooks of late medieval medicine were just lists of symptoms. Hands tremble, mouth festers, dreams are made out of razor wire. In other words, business as usual. The lab is one torch and a prayer away from glorious fiery oblivion. OSHA isn't coming. Not now, not ever. You're on your own, surrounded by bubbling retorts and clouds of sickly vapor. Sometimes you open the window. Sometimes you remember you still have lungs. On a good day, you only die slowly. On a bad day, you don't die alone, just in the same room as your apprentice who's busy inventing asbestos by accident. You trust them to measure out the antimony, but not to remember their own name. Employee of the month, whoever still has teeth. Let's do a quick lunch rundown. Hard day, pouring mercury onto gold scrap. Don't bother washing up soap is suspicious and time is gold. So there you sit, elbows slick, gnawing a hunk of bread and wondering if the metallic tang in the air is today's batch or your next stroke. Spoiler both. Modern foodies worry about microplastics. Your intestines are a superfund sight. Taste that crunch, it's minerals. Now with 9 kinds of toxicity. Vegan options not a thing. The legends say alchemy was all about turning lead into gold. They don't mention turning flesh into weeping sores or optimism into paranoia. You know how it goes: soak a metal in quicksilver, roast it over open flame, inhale the vapor because you're curious. Or because the apprentice mixed the wrong powder and now the whole place smells like the world's worst dentist. Look around. Distant corner, a flask of something called red precipitate oxide, which explodes and spits poison gas if you so much as sneeze. Overhead, rafters streaked with mercury stains from a failed experiment, the last alchemist's big idea. Floorboards glossed with strange shine. You try not to track it home, but mercury can hitch a ride on your cuffs, your hair, your sense of hope. Good luck explaining that to your spouse. Every piece of equipment is betraying you. Leather gloves turn to mush. Aprons rot from the inside. Metal scales corrode overnight. The mortar is porous. The air is thick. You try holding your breath, but how long can you last? 30 seconds. A minute. Air quality rating medieval Beijing. Here's a stat: half the prisoners in mercury mines died within months, the other half wished they had. Alchemists just measured the time in hallucinations and lost teeth. And you, lucky you, get to show up tomorrow, remix the same sludge, and pretend it's for science or God or a shot at some patron's coin. The reality: you're running a test kitchen for chemical warfare and your own body's the sample tray. Mercury madness wasn't just a punchline. It was an accepted occupational hazard. Shaking, sweating, drooling. The symptoms doubled as signs of divine inspiration. Nothing says prophetic wisdom like frothing at the mouth. If you were lucky, your career ended in exile. If you were unlucky, you got the mad label and a long, lonely decline. Isaac Newton spent his twilight years writing letters to imaginary friends. The rest just quietly dissolved. Still hungry. That taste in your mouth isn't enlightenment. It's your gums betraying you, and the only thing turning to gold is your sweat color, not value. Still chained to the bench. Still not dead. Yet, you think you're ready? Great. You're not. You're not just an alchemist, you're a magician with a death wish and a side gig as a con artist. Everyone knows turning lead into gold is a scam, but as long as the king believes you, you're a genius. Until he doesn't. Fraud is whatever tomorrow's executioner says it is. Congratulations, you're living in a reality show where the final episode always ends with a dungeon tour. Here's the trick: everyone lies, but only the unlucky ones get labeled. You stand there in your smoky workshop, grinding beetles and reciting half-remembered Latin curses. And what's the difference between brilliance and blasphemy? About 12 hours and the wrong guest at your door. 1 minute you're swirling mercury in a cracked beaker, promising immortality to someone wearing pants worth more than your house. The next, that same somebody is buying pitchforks and putting your name on the peasant grapevine. Medieval networking LinkedIn with more fires and fewer endorsements. Don't imagine for 1 second you're special. The streets are crawling with healers selling plague cures made from grease and hope. Palm readers, bone throwers, philosophers hustling a theory they don't fully believe. Everybody is selling something and nobody checks the warranty. What's the test for real magic? Not getting caught. Like banking, but with more bloodletting and less paperwork. You want to talk imposter syndrome? This is it. But with torture implements and side-eye from men in robes. Paracelsus, the guy who called himself greater than Celsus, bragged he had the philosopher's stone. Spoiler, he also had powerful enemies: chronic paranoia, and an extremely short list of people who'd touch his leftovers. Maybe that's why he moved so much. You just hope your apprentice isn't writing you up for the Inquisition's Yelp page. 1-star food was cold, master was heretical, would not recommend. There's no tenure here. Double bind, sell out, and you're toast. Stay silent, still toast, but with bonus flavor, rack smoked and heretic glazed. Think about it, you crack a joke about gold making at dinner. 2 nights later, the guards come for you because the Duke's investments went south. Gossip travels faster than you do. This isn't chemistry. It's a popularity contest for the talented and the doomed. Still chain. Still not gold. You swear you were just following Galen's treatise, but who's going to believe you over the monk who thinks onions cure everything? Half the population can't read. The other half reads the wrong things. Can the average judge understand the difference between distilled spirits and demon vapors? No. Both get you executed, but only one tastes good. Try explaining to a mob why you store oil of vitriol in unlabeled jars. That's not cutting-edge research, that's premeditated arson. Context is just a luxury for people who make the rules. And about those rules shifting sand under your feet. Today's miracle is tomorrow's abomination. Last week you were helping the bishop's gout with a secret recipe. This week, you're a corrupter of souls, not to mention a drain on church wine reserves. Flatter the wrong official, you end up in a guest cell with wall slime and rusty chains, like airmen but for pain. You get good at reading the room, that's survival. You memorize patrons, pet peeves, rival alchemists, grudges, every rumor from scullery maids to stable boys. Hear people talking about cleansing fire, time to pack. Practice your harmless scholar face in the mirror. Repeat after me, just vinegar, sir, no demons, no gold. Keep your gear ready to combust, your stories ready to change. Gold. Of course, just needs 6 more weeks and your philosopher's egg. Immortality. Not out of reach provided someone else tests the batch. Need a love potion for a nobleman's dog. You'd better be able to whip that up before lunch and swear it's top secret. And if you ever just once look confused while mixing something, that's it, you're a warlock. The mob outside roaring for justice does not want nuance. They want closure. Clean, efficient, cathartic violence. Welcome to science as a spectator sport. By the way, which is gender inclusive now. Doesn't matter who you are if they think you're too smart and too weird, you're next. Ask John D. Court astrologer, spy, mathematician, Wabam accused of conjuring devils when the queen blinked. You think anyone held a seminar on that? No, they held sticks and ropes. Still think your notes will save you? Good luck. They become evidence. Alchemical symbols, secret code for conspiracy, recipes, proof of unholy pacts. Kids in the village try tracing your circles in the dirt. When something bad happens, guess who climbs the blame ladder? Not the cow. So you hedge, hide your research, swear it's just a hobby. That's not quicksilver, that's for cleaning wounds. Kiss every ring in sight, but not too enthusiastically. Don't want to look desperate. Above all, never admit results, only promise them. Reward structure, torture if you fail, torture if you succeed too loudly. Literal no-win scenario. Half the prisoners died in a week. You're on day 6. Progress. You don't even know what survival looks like anymore. Just one more day not dead. Still want gold. Here's your prize, damp cell, bloody straw, iron on your wrists. No air, no help, no way out. It's not about science. It never was. It's about who believes you and for how long. The truth. Nobody cares what you can do, only what you can prove on command to the right crowd at the right time. Like a talent show, but the judges are carrying axes behind the stage. Smoke up genius. Tomorrow they'll call it heresy. The next day it'll be alchemy again. Nothing ever changes but the label. You wake up, still chain, still not gold, still not dead, for now. No, you don't get the philosopher's stone. You get the hole beneath the stairs. Turns out the real magic school is just a mildew-wrapped crawl space with a view of yesterday's chicken bones. When alchemy fails to deliver bottomless gold and your elixir of life turns out to be a reminder that mercury is not in fact drinkable court patience, doesn't just wear thin, it slithers down the drain right alongside last week's chamber pot and the last shreds of your dignity. Paracelsus called himself the Luther of medicine. You're next in line for a rat bite, assuming the rats don't unionize first. There's no grand Renaissance rebellion here, only revolutionary exfoliation courtesy of moldy shackles and whatever's festering in the straw. That Hogwarts letter finally arrives, and it's just an invoice for dungeon cleaning from that time you exploded the chamber pot. So yes, you invented chemical weaponry, accidentally. No applause, just a slow clap when you manage to detonate arsenic-laced experiments. If you can blow up something that isn't the king's dog or the dowry room, congratulations. You get one more stale crust and one less guard watching your cell. Until little Timmy, the page, drinks mercury water, and then suddenly it abandons science and convert water into wine now, or the crowd does experiments on you. Turns out alchemist is Latin for hey, make this problem disappear, usually by disappearing you. You can distill piss into piss. You can transmute gold leaf into nothing but a cloud of cough-inducing dust and disappointment. The closest you've come to producing treasure is emptying the king's cutlery drawer, technically a kind of displacement reaction, if we're counting panic. The only transformation happening in this dungeon now is you from promising innovator to that guy the jailer forgot to feed. You are the control variable in the experiment of how long can humans last on fungal bread and self-loathing. No journals, no followers, no light, no food, no help. You try to jot down a few observations with a charcoal nub, but good luck publishing on the inside of a latrine bucket. Once the door slams shut, peer review just means the other prisoner gnaws on your ankle for warmth. Newton had his apple. You have a single shriveled turnip that looks like it just tried to flee. It's less a laboratory and more a test. How many ways can medieval plumbing drag you toward the Black Death? Choose your adventure, sponsored by tetanus. Half the prisoners died in a week. You're on day 6. The most consistent medical trial going is, can fever dreams replace solid nutrition? Spoiler, they cannot. Infection is an accessory. Body lice are the new research partners, and every passing day just sharpens the definition of rock bottom. No one calls you sage or doctor anymore. Around here, the highest honorific is, hey, rat food. Or on formal occasions, shut up, I'm trying to die in peace. You fantasize about the luxurious conditions of your old kitchen laboratory, a splintering stool, a fireplace with actual fire, and only occasional spillage of toxic lead vapor. The escape room fad exists, but here the winning strategy is bribe the guard or chew through your own chain. And let's just say the difficulty setting is less family fun and more plague rat edition. You can almost hear the dungeon master cackle. You want to unlock the secrets of nature. Here's a locked door and 4 extra locks. Stench is constant. Air so thick you could bottle it, then sell to future historians as artisanal medieval torture. The straw beneath you is a robust experiment in microbial growth. Step 1, breathe in. Step 2, reconsider. The only thing you learn in your cell is the chemical composition of hopelessness with a lingering note of despair. Occasionally, the guard kicks your bucket over, and congratulates himself on ensuring cleanliness protocol. It's like airborne, but for pain. You're still chained, still not gold. Even your mistakes don't earn you infamy. At most, you're a passing warning to the next idiot who thinks lead plus heat equals rent money. It's a history of disappointment repeated on a loop with new participants every plague season. At this rate, you'll be a footnote, miscellaneous heretic outcome, unknown, probably exploded. All around you science is something done to people, not by them. The court wants miracles, not hypotheses. Your fellow inmates have two career options: die or watch you die. The king's patience runs in centuries except when his dog coughs blood, then suddenly it. Banish the sorcerers and do it yesterday. You think you're ready? Great. You're not. There is no lesson in all this except maybe, just maybe, don't try to explain combustion to someone who thinks lightning is a witch's fart. But hey, at least you left your mark, black ash on cold stones, a legacy no one will ever bother to dust. In the end, you don't get the secret of immortality. You get a week's worth of screams, the faint echo of gold you'll never touch, and the sour reminder that the only thing easier to turn into dust than lead is you. Still chained, still not dead, still not gold. Just another lost recipe filed under Alchemist failed experiment. Congratulations, Alchemist. Still not gold, still not dead, but now it's time for your public shamming segment on repeat. Remember when you thought a little trapped sulfur was the worst part of the job? Newsflash: nothing says job security like being the official reason for every catastrophe within a 50-mile radius. Here's the real alchemy: no matter who screws up, it's always your fault. The crop failed. Sorry, your night vapors hex the harvest. The prince has a nosebleed. Definitely your red powder. The baker's sourdough collapsed. Must be your bad air. Medieval scapegoating, the original influencer cancellation. Except you don't get a brand deal, you get a crowd with torches and a bonus round of property confiscation. Whose idea was it to mix faith, politics, and fear with amateur chemistry? Yours, apparently. No one actually cares about your work. They want someone to blame when their lead is still just surprise lead. Kings pin their bankruptcy on you because math is satanic. Their war soup never turns to victory wine, so obviously your fault. Priests waggle their fingers every time you make smoke, heretic, arsonist, or just working the night shift without a permit, take your pick. Even the town dog gets more consistent PR. Remember Nicholas Flamel? Sure, he posthumously gained celebrity status, immortal, mystical, probably invented by bored scriveners. But in life he was basically that weird librarian who probably hexed my bread. The Paris rumor mill chewed him up and spat out a conspiracy. John D., the Queen's own science guy, until the rumors boiled over and suddenly he's that necromancer who ruins crops by blinking. Isaac Newton. Sure, everybody loves him now, but he hid his alchemy notebooks under a pile of calculus like hiding drugs in your tax returns. The gold standard for keep your head down. You're the medieval IT guy summoned only for disasters, exiled when the bug isn't fixed in 30 seconds and retroactively accused of inventing ransomware. But with more mercury hallucinations and fewer vacation days. Fix my chicken pox. Turn my sandals to silver. Translate this Latin curse: my neighbor just sneezed twice. Unmet expectations. It's your failure. If the well dries up, you're the lead suspect. If rats multiply, society assumes you fed them starter yeast. The real transformation was you slowly turning into a public pariah meme, the walking equivalent of a broken spell check. Let's count the classics. Drought. Your fault, probably did something under the moon again. Flooding. Miscalculated the planetary alignments. Blight. You must have botched the mandrake harvest again. The miller's wife gets a cold audience with the bishop starring you, a pile of suspicious herbs and a mob of disappointed peasants. Half the prisoners died in a week. Ure on day 6. Still chained. Think customer service. But your headset is an iron collar. Try filing a medieval HR complaint: burnt at the stake, drowned, pick your flavor of undercooked justice. Nobody wants to hear about your research methods once the bread goes moldy or the king's gout flares up. You explain. The philosopher's stone is more of a metaphor. But according to your contract, you're exactly one miracle away from an airless oubliette. By next market day, you're the go-to crisis mascot like a corporate Twitter account after a PR meltdown. Except the hashtag is drown the weird guy. Here's the sick punchline: people want a scapegoat more than they want gold. Gold ends problems. A scapegoat explains them. Explains away every lost harvest, every failed prayer, every bad omen and political scandal, every fatal rash on the king's back. Bread is sour. Witchcraft. Bread is good. Praise God, also probably witchcraft. Damned if you do, damned if you cure. You're an insurance policy that pays out in accusations. The humor. Your job is turning base metals into gold, but the only real transformation is leaden hope into collective anxiety. You're the unpaid therapist for other people's superstitions. Pro tip: never mention the elixir of life during a plague year. It just means your next appointment comes with free pitchforks. The town council built an entire civic drama around blaming you, starring civic responsibility and personal consequence. Plague comes. Panic. Alchemist must have infected the wells. The mayor's cousin gets food poisoning. They dig up your backyard for tainted onions. Each public trial a Renaissance reality show with higher stakes and more rats. Your life is a cautionary tale retold to children. Eat your porridge or the alchemist will turn you into lead. Funny until it's your name on the lips of the angry mob. And let's not forget professional jealousy. The local blacksmith resents your stovetop explosions. Physicians side-eye your tinctures because their bloodletting just isn't landing with clients. The monks, annoyed by your sulfur stink, pray for your illumination, preferably via pyre. Every failed experiment is another reason for them to whisper, "He's hiding something," or "He's consorting with devils." Spoiler: you're hiding indigestion and regret. Maybe you try to blend and grow a beard where drab robes skip the daily vapor cloud. Doesn't matter. Your cheapest glass flask is worth more suspicion than the apothecary's entire rat-infested basement. At some point, you stop correcting their science. No one wants an alibi, just a villain with chemical burns. Even if you perfect your work, it's still not enough. Turn lead convincingly into gold and you'll get 50 new accusers: forgery, treason, heresy, economic destabilization. Not rewarded, just upgraded to prime suspect. Make a healing potion that works. The court physician calls you a poisoner, and suddenly you're inventing excuses for the smell of burnt rosemary under duress. Plausible deniability doesn't exist, only plausible guilt. So keep stirring that cauldron. Maybe this time they'll just forget you exist. Maybe the king's bread won't sour, the priest's cat won't die, the weather will hold, and you'll be left alone to contemplate the mysteries of failed batch number 3000. Unlikely, but hope is another experimental byproduct almost as volatile as saltpeter. Still chain. Still not gold. Your hands smell like vinegar and regret. Scapegoat season never ends. Everyone loves a hero until he starts melting in his own acid bath. Welcome to Career Advancement Medieval Edition. Your choice is sainthood, martyrdom, or public mockery. Sometimes all three, ideally on the same day. You're expected to be wise, anointed, half sacred, half liability. Instead, you're coughing blood in a freezing cellar, knee-deep in failed experiments and one awkward cough from sainthood by asphyxiation. Next stop, a holy relic jar with your name spelled wrong. You want specifics. Try John of Rupacissa. Had the big dreams, bigger pox. Got locked up by the Inquisition twice. His reward for discovering the elixir of life, mandatory celibacy. Spent his days muttering Latin at a wall and hallucinating angels in the mold growing on his hood. Like LinkedIn, only your endorsements are all from people who died young or got burned for heresy. You think your internship was bad. Imagine spending 3 years turning horse urine into liquid gold and getting scurvy in return. Let's talk workplace safety. OSHA did not exist. You want to know how many fingers your average alchemist kept by age 40? If you had 3, you were the star pupil. Mercury, arsenic, random farm chemicals, just another Tuesday. The lab smells like burnt hair and panic, but you grin and call it progress. Try explaining to your apprentice, just 12 and already half blind, that purifying the soul might turn base metal to gold, but it never once paid the rent, or stopped the rats from eating your manuscripts. No pension, no sick days. Only boils, blisters, and the landlord pounding on the door demanding his cut of nothing. Nicholas Flamel, immortal legend, mortal lungs. Allegedly cracked the code to eternal life. Actually cracked his own teeth on bad bread and died before collecting a single profit. Fame, mostly posthumous. Real work, a series of desperate recipes, half of which ended with the phrase, "Abandon hope, all ye who stir." Contemporary accounts agree mercury vapor hallucinations, blessed forgetfulness, and mysterious stains on the floor. Dirty hands, dirtier floors. Immortality. Sure, if you count the rumors. You think people today struggle for recognition? Try being the blessed fool of your town, prayed over by peasants, ridiculed by the barber surgeon, and intermittently tested by holy men with bad eyesight. Got boils? That's penance. Got rashes? That's progress. The villagers steal your urine flasks and drink them for health. Your landlord wants gold, you offer philosopher's salt. Everyone's disappointed, including you. Modern performance reviews can be brutal, but medieval ones included actual torture devices. Failed to produce the philosopher's stone. Welcome to the rack, courtesy of His Grace, the Inquisitor, who's pretty sure your knowledge of distillation is suspiciously pagan. Magic is Latin for unemployment. If you're lucky, the monks in the scriptorium will preserve your formulas, right next to the cures for plague that mostly involved prayers and leeches. You think you're smart, genius. More like designated scapegoat. The price of failure is not just embarrassment, but public spectacle, mock trials where the judge can't tell sulfur from soup. Half the audience is there for the spectacle, half for the snacks. The irony: you wanted to change the world. All you get is a first-row seat at your own slow-motion public undoing. Results: high stakes, low returns. It's a pyramid scheme with more ash than cash. You labor for decades chasing the glow of a stone that never shows, except in the fever dreams of junkies hawking miracle recipes. The records that survive are barely legible, crammed with cryptic symbols and greasy thumbprints. Your breakthrough: more like a breakdown, carefully folded, pressed, and filed behind patient died, cause unknown. Call the support line. If the boils come first, trial for fraud comes later. If not, there's always the rats. So what are you, fool or visionary? Saint or village idiot? Both and neither, depending on who's asking. One look at your hands, scarred, blackened, permanently shaking, and the answer glints there in cuts and burns. Your tools outlive you, your reputation doesn't. Saints get faces on coins, you get a half-melted crucifix and a warning scratched into the wall: don't drink the blue stuff. This is the real dividend ambiguity. Some days you're called inspired, others demonic. Most days just tired, bone deep. The church doesn't trust you. The doctor wants your notes. The neighbors want your skull, preferably detached. Are you famous? Only in death. Infamous? Sometimes in life. You're just another failed promise, another holy fool sliding off the painting and into the dark. Like airmen, but for pain everyone borrows. Your theory wrecks the place, blames you for the stink in the morning. And yet you keep going. Still chained, still not dead, still no gold. Is it worth it? The question stews in your lungs, heavy as mercury. No clear answer. No exit interview. Every stone unturned reveals another dead end. Which is, of course, the point. The joke, the trap, the grim little punchline: sainthood and idiocy are bedfellows sleeping on straw and dreaming of lead turned to gold. You think you're ready? Great, you're not. But you'll keep trying because someone has to might as well be the fool in the basement breathing poison and rewriting the future one failed recipe at a time. So raise a flask to all the saints and suckers, still chained, still not gold, still not dead, yet. Alchemy, the startup dream before tech bros made it cool. You're starving, feverish, covered in homemade bruises, and yet somehow still convinced you'll retire early on DIY gold. Spoiler, the universe has direct deposit. It's not paying you. It isn't even a new idea. Babylon, Alexandria, China, everyone had a guy tapping on lead promising any day now. Global network zero results. By 1300, the only thing multiplying in your lab is debt. You obsess over cryptic notebooks and secret ciphers, sure that solve et coagula is one step from make it rain. Newsflash, it means boil and scrape, just with more fire hazards. Here everything lies. Every scroll, every whispered transmutation is real, bro. Even Isaac Newton, yeah, Apple guy, science icon, alchemist on weekends, spent decades sniffing mercury fumes and poking lead waiting for his Hogwarts letter. Newton's proudest invention. Self-inflicted chemical burns and spending his 40s writing philosophical mercury instead of actual philosophy. The real philosopher's stone was PTSD. Sometimes you wonder if anyone ever believed this or if everyone was just simulating. The patron plays visionary ruler. The alchemist plays wise conjurer. Both are faking it. It's the original LinkedIn. Every success story is technically a lie, but who's checking the endorsements? Your lab. It's a medieval shed starring rat droppings and a tragic sense of hope. Take a fistful of powdered misery mix with enough lead to violate modern EPA codes and burn your fingerprints off by candlelight. Still nothing turns gold except your hair, if you still have any. One false move, you splash acid in your eye or drop molten antimony on your foot, and the only thing transmuting is your pain threshold. Maybe you try to recycle failures. Iron nails in horse urine. Bread mold with copper. Still nothing but smoke. You study the smoky stains on ceiling beams and convince yourself it's the first stage. You tell investors that ashes are potential gold, which is technically true if your definition of gold is disappointment. Your patrons, who used to be impressed by bubbling jars and Latin mumbling, are now measuring your neck for custom chains. At least you got to play scientist before it was cool and criminal. Turn the hourglass again. No breakthroughs. The king's court is running out of patience, also affordable peasants. News spread some court in Prague locked their alchemist in a tower until he paid off his failures in gold. His legacy? Tower graffiti and annoying suspicion that the philosopher's stone is just a brick. The market for get-rich painfully slow is shrinking. Your equipment, glassware scavenged from monasteries, mortars used for grinding both hopes and probably edible minerals. Gloves. Try wishful thinking. Safety gear is rolling your sleeves down and hopping for the best. Air quality medieval city plus artisanal lead vapor. Half the prisoners died in a week. You're on day 6. Let's not forget your colleagues. The competition is a guy down the road who claims to have turned eggshells into silver. He's wearing a velvet hat and coughing blood. You ask for his secret and he invites you to his funeral. At least he died mysterious. Somewhere a king huffs, just a little more effort. He means yours, not his. Royalty paces in velvet shoes waiting for their promised river of gold. They can't find the philosopher's stone, but they can find a replacement alchemist. Yours is a gig economy, but the gigs have consequences. One more try, says your boss, while sharpening his favorite executioner's axe. Remember that time you swore on your secret formula and accidentally created the world's flattest rat? Everyone remembers, especially the Inquisition. Awkward family dinner that. You keep insisting it's part of the process, but no one invites you to any more feasts. You make friends with your own shadow. It's safer that way. You keep a hidden stash of failures, a ball of melted iron, a bottle of red smoke, a notebook full of predictions that never came true. Every page is another maybe this time, but the only thing that multiplies is pages. Even your handwriting starts to look like a cry for help. Still, you work through the night. You scrape lead into powder and watch as nothing happens again. The world's greatest minds spend centuries chasing an impossible dream. Your legacy is blistered thumbs and a surprisingly thorough knowledge of rat anatomy. The only gold you ever make is in your fever dreams, right before you wake up coughing. Everyone else gets an apprenticeship, you get a police case file. Lead is still not gold, but apparently no one can tell the difference until you stop breathing. Chained to your ambitions, to your failures, to your empty promises. Still chained, still not rich, still nothing but lead. You think you're ready to give up. Great, you're not.